Greetings. Today on Business in Motion, we're going to be having a heart-to-heart discussion with Mr. Eric Garvan, and this is regarding the possibility of a golden era for business on the horizon for Black people. Stick around. You're really going to love this program.
The all-new WMEG Radio.
And welcome back to the second half of Business in Motion, a program that focuses on business and entrepreneurship from an Afro-centered perspective. I'm your host, RGL Biz Coach, and you are now in the spotlight. And as I told you all, I got a special treat for you in this segment for the rest of this program until 5 o'clock, until we're ready to go off. Going to be interviewing. I got to tell you a little bit of how this kind of came about. Sunday before last, over at Howard University, they were having this special program, a commemoration for Hattie McDaniels. She happened to be the black lady who played in Gone with the Wind. Well, anyway, the way the story goes, she won an Academy. She was the first African-American to win an Academy Award, and she had passed this over to Howard University and allowed them to keep this. And it was there for years, and I guess at some point, somebody who worked there or came by had the audacity to take it. I guess they felt like that they deserved it more than Howard University did. But anyway, what happened, this was reissued to Howard University, and they had a special program commemorating her Sunday before last. And so I happened to be one who happened to be there. Felicia Rashad, she spoke, the president of Howard University, they spoke. It was an excellent program. I'm telling you, excellent program. And, you know, I happened to sport this little piece. It's like an African, a gold African pendant of a head. And I hadn't worn this thing in about 10 years, to be honest with you. And I had it on, and like I'm out in the lobby and all, and a gentleman came over to me and he commented about it. And we we became engaged in this conversation. And we continued talking. And I'm telling you, since that day, I think we've had about at least three or four solid, very good conversations. We have so many things in common. And I said, I got to bring you on because this brother's heavy. You know what I'm saying? Just listen. Look, when you listen, you will see what I'm talking about. This is not a typical human being. He's a very sharp person. But with no further ado, who I have here is Eric Garvan. Are you there, Eric?
Yes, I am.
How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing great, and I'm blushing. I'm kind of brown, so you wouldn't tell, but wow. I definitely enjoyed our conversations. I've learned a lot, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some of the what I picked up along the way.
Well, that is very good. I'm telling you, you know, there need to be more people like yourself. You know, there definitely needs to be. I mean, but to get started, if you could just take a minute, you know, because this time goes by so quickly. It seems like, okay, we got almost an hour. But, you know, we'll end up taking a break, and time just goes by. So to get things started, could you tell the listeners, again, give a synopsis of yourself, you know, where you're from, you know, and pronounce that last name really well. I want to make sure I don't want to screw up on it, and pronounce that so that I've got it and the audience has it. But just give a synopsis of who you are.
Okay. Well, great. Well, first off, I'm going to say hello. I say hello. And my name is Eric Garvan, Garvanne, and I am from, as one of my brothers says, and I agree, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, Shirley Chisholm's Brooklyn. So a lot of what happened in my early memories of life were very political, and I grew up in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, and I did attend Catholic school there, which was very interesting in Brooklyn. I went to school with the guys that you may have seen if you ever saw the movie Saturday Night Fever, I went to school primarily in sort of a rough section in Brooklyn. And then I was fortunate enough to get into Harvard University, where I started in chemistry and then switched into economics. And I have primarily worked for large corporations with small teams in sales and sales management, introducing new products. Everything from cellular equipment and specialized containers and that sort of thing, and then also some different software products that I was, and I took to embassies, and I had a lot of, a wide range of business experience. In that vein, I learned a lot about money and how money works, and I've taken a lot of math, and so there's what I call the math of money, and I suggest that anyone who might be interested, that you get a pencil and paper. You might want to jot some things down, and I can always be reached at 202-812-1591. And I'm happy to answer questions and be helpful, because this is so important right now as the world is changing. So that's sort of a brief introduction. I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
All right, very good. That's very good. Well, first of all, the segment that I'm just coming out of, that, in the last 30 minutes, I happen to be talking about education, and, was making mention about the Harvard universities and other Ivy Leagues and other schools, just, what are considered to be top-rated universities. And so here it is, you coming right behind, and you actually you did your undergraduate work at Harvard University. Tell the audience about that. What was it like?
Well, I'm going to say this. Harvard, I did not intend to go to Harvard University. That was not on my list of things to do.
Okay.
My intention was to become a fighter pilot. My intention was to fly F-4 Phantoms off a carrier deck in the South China Sea. That was my goal at that time. And I met a girl that I guess sort of fell in love with, and because of my complexion, we broke up. Well, her mother and grandmother broke us up, and I decided that I was going to apply myself to show what I'll use the polite word, but I decided I was going to show what a black person could do.
Okay.
And I really applied myself. And when I applied myself, I did very well. And Harvard became one of the options. There were some other schools that were options, and the Marine Corps was an option in their Naval Aviator program. And when I learned about Harvard, then I said, okay, I'll go there. And what I would say to people now, Harvard was almost like going to the moon or Mars or someplace. It was such a different world. And Harvard is a culture. It's almost an organism. It spans the globe with an incredible network. And I'm only now beginning to take advantage of that network. And I strongly advise anyone who goes to any college, and you should go to college. College is great. It's fun. There's so much good about college. If people knew how great going to college was, more people would go. But Harvard is night and day, not even. Very competitive. No one is dumb, but the culture is very expansive. And not only did I go, I graduated.
Right.
And I tell people I graduated from Harvard. I strongly advise that we could talk more about that. But Harvard is not about money. That's one of the things I learned. Harvard is about, in my view, is about control of the resources of the earth. That's what Harvard is about. Harvard is about control of the resources of the earth. It's not about money.
Okay, I see. And when you're talking about control of the resources of the earth, that's basically the economics, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yes, it's like who's going to get what, where, when, how. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very good. I'm just glad to hear that. Like I say, just coming out of my last segment, and that's what it was all about, was education. I'm pro-education. I've spent, I don't know, I have 19 years of formal education myself and a lot of other self-studies. You know, and I have just as much studying that I've done and courses that I've taken that are not part of those curriculums that I just did on my own. So
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think is really important. Because at an early age, now my father, he was a sharecropper in tobacco and drove a cab, and my mother was a person who later became a licensed nurse, and she worked up at Bedford Hills in the prison up there, and also some of the methadone clinics in the neighborhood. We had 3 methadone clinics in the neighborhood when I grew up. And the thing that we were taught was the difference between school and education. So you go to school to get a piece of paper.
Right.
But you got to educate yourself.
I like that. I like where you're coming from, and I agree wholeheartedly, 100%. Yes. Now, I want to hit on just some things that you and I have discussed since we've met. All right?
Sure.
Okay. First of all, let's talk a little bit about theater. You know, you had some experience in theater work. Could you talk about that?
Sure. The thing about theater, well, first of all, I went to work for Shakespeare Theater here in Washington and became assistant campaign manager for subscription sales, and also worked in the fundraising effort. But what was most important, I was exposed to the ability to take classes and to be with people who were creating theater. And I'm a big fan of film, and I see a lot of film. I enjoy film, and with theater, I began to understand why somebody would pay $100 to see a play. I mean, I began to see that some of the plays, once you understand what's going on there, there are life lessons that are being presented on a stage that some people actually absorb and apply the lessons that they see in a Shakespeare play or an August Wilson play or any of the authors. And when I grew up, black theater was big and not some of the things that I see now. So, for example, we saw a lot of street theater. We saw Leroy Jones before he becomes Amiri Baraka.
Yes.
And then Imamu Baraka, so Slave Ship, Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich, Story of a 3-Day Pass, Ain't No Place to Be Somebody. And then Barbara Ann Tier. We used to sneak around and go up to Harlem and go to the National Black Theater that Barbara Ann Tier had, because we didn't have money.
Right.
So because we didn't have money, we had to figure out how to go places, and we learned how to go places that were either free or very, very inexpensive. And it was just a lot more fun and a lot more interesting than just hanging around the neighborhood or, the basketball courts were dangerous. So we kind of didn't, we didn't really hang around basketball courts too much. But theater, and particularly black theater at the time, was so powerful. And right now, there are a lot of stories that are not being told that it's a concern to me that there's so many stories that we're not hearing the tales of that could really make a difference.
Right. And you in one of our discussions, you happened to be speaking about one gentleman. I think you have some engagement with a film that might be upcoming or a role. Or you were speaking about this one gentleman who was back in the day, and God, I forget his name. But do you remember who I was talking about?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm doing now is I'm working on a musical and a screenplay about a black man who was a ship captain during the War of 1812.
Right.
And I came across a research paper that described a black man, a ship captain, who went to meet President James Madison to get one of his ships back. And I was like, what? Is this true? This is unbelievable. And because I thought that the first time that a black person met a president was Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass.
Right.
And I had no idea that a black man was a ship captain. And in fact, during the War of 1812, he had 5 ships.
What?
So he was the captain of captains. It was an incredible story. And I've been researching him and his wife and some of the other free black people, particularly those who traveled internationally before the Civil War. So I've come to discover this slave story that we've been hypnotized by is not the whole story. And it's an incredible story that when you are a ship captain, there's so much information that's available about black people at that time, but we are just not looking.
Now, because I had never heard of this until you mentioned it in our conversation. So you were saying before Marcus Garvey, because he was after slavery.
Oh, man. Yeah, almost 100 years. Marcus Garvey, okay, black people were driven out of the maritime industry.
Wow.
Okay, black people were driven out because black men were becoming successful as sea captains. And what happened was black men, there were some women, by the way, and families who went to sea, but primarily black men became successful in whaling ships, but then also piloting, as they call, ships up and down the coast. This is before the creation of the black minister as the leader in the black community. The black minister was not always the leader in black communities. The first leader, that's why Crispus Attucks, who was a sailor, was killed.
Okay.
That's why, and there were a number of people who were sailors. That's why Nat Turner, his plan was to go to Haiti.
Okay.
You know, so there's so much that happened to drive black people out of the maritime industry and also to reduce black people's connection with the larger world and also with entrepreneurship, because most of the sailors, and particularly those who became captains, the guy who took the, what's his name? Charles Sumner, I think was his name, who commandeered the steamboat and took it to the Union lines. Like, very few people ask, well, how was he able to do that? Because he knew how to operate a ship. That's how.
Very good point. Very, very good point.
You know?
Well, I think that the powers that be did a very good job on Black America, because I think even today, here it is, 2023, that too many of us are still thinking, in a box, as if, you can't go other places and make things happen. You can only function locally. And I'm just saying, wait a minute, the world is actually small today. And from my experiences, when I travel different places in the world, it seems that everybody's wondering, when will the African Americans show up? You understand what I'm saying? In the business world and all. And I don't know, what's your thought about that?
I'm really concerned because, particularly for young black people, this is an incredibly wonderful time, properly understood. The opportunities are there's just so many opportunities right now where a young person, even an older person like myself, you can do business with anyone, anywhere in the world. So this whole conversation about racism and black and white and all this stuff, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of precious time. There are so many opportunities right now that if we could get unhypnotized by people like DeSantis and Trump and get caught up in their drama and their BS and focus on the opportunities that are available to us and begin to really take just a clear view. This is an incredible, I think, I understand people who talk about the Harlem Renaissance and all that, but I think that when people look back on this time, particularly those people who are like baby boomers and up to now, this will be considered a golden time of black people where there are black people who are doing things in almost every field of endeavor, and they're being hidden by the promotion of, I'm going to say, I'm just going to say it. I really think that the emasculation of the black man and the masculinization, so to speak, of the black woman and creating so much havoc and dissension in our families is taking up so much oxygen that we're being distracted from opportunities to really create intergenerational wealth that was not possible at any time in our history.
Now I got a question. Do you think that there are forces behind the scene that's maliciously causing this to occur? Or is it just happens to be?
Wait a minute, I'm not saying anything that's hard to observe. I mean, yes, absolutely. They're not hiding it.
Right. There you go.
It's secret. I mean, everybody doesn't get a microphone. Okay, when Barack Obama was president of the United States, they get black people all over the place talking about what was wrong with him and what he didn't know and all of that. When Trump became president, those black people didn't have jobs. They took them Negroes off the air. Yeah?
Yeah. You know, I don't understand today. Like I say, you know, I don't mind saying I'm independent. I'm kind of independent. I don't get pro with either one of those parties. I think there's work, especially with that one on the other side with your Trump and the DeSantis and all them guys and ladies. I just can't get with them. I don't understand why. I don't understand what so many of these other African Americans see in that group. I'm certain. I mean, I'm not even saying that it doesn't exist. You know, whatever it is they see, but I don't see it. And to me, I'm all constantly saying, okay, well, if I got an issue with the NAACP, I'm not going to take my donation and say, okay, well, I'm not giving it to you because I don't like some of the things you've done. I'm going to give it over here to the KKK. But, you know, in reality, this is what I'm kind of seeing, you know?
I don't know. I feel a little different. And here's what I mean when I say a little different.
All right.
Okay, the way I feel a little different is, and this might be what I learned at Harvard, but I also learned it from my father. How can I say? It is so profitable to steal people's labor, which is how this country got built, by stealing the labor of black men and women, and even more so, stealing the intellectual property of black men and women. That's how this country got built. So I can understand why there are people who want to keep us worried about what they are doing. They want to keep the attention on them. And I can understand why there are some people who want to get close to what they perceive as power. I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into this because I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes.
Right.
But I will say, even though I went to Catholic school, one of the first lessons I learned from my parents, and we learned from our parents, is the white man is not God.
Right.
Okay, let's just get that straight.
Right.
Okay, the white man is not God. Okay, that was something that we were just taught early on. So you go in there to school and all of that, but you go in there to get a piece of paper. So whatever they tell you, you just feed it back to them, because I ain't coming down to school or listening to you because you're arguing with the teacher. Okay, so we ain't got time for that. You got to go there and get good grades, do your homework, and keep moving. That's what we were told.
Yes.
So, and don't expect them to like you. Ain't nobody supposed to like you in school. This ain't, look, it was just, it was, so I hear people now talking about, my teacher didn't like me, I'm black. Yeah, you're black. Yeah, that's right. You do have to do better. You have to, yes, you do, okay? Face it. All right? So, I can understand why some people want to push up again. But just look, I don't even understand you. Man, how come, let's take something simple.
Okay.
Of all the black people who worked in technology, for those of us who remember the early days of what we now call tech, what are the black companies? All the black people that worked for Bell Atlantic, all the black people who worked for the car companies when they just got going, where are the companies?
I wish I could tell you, but I can't.
When you go, when I worked over in Tyson's Corner, and I'm moving around with some of the companies out there, now they've moved all over the place. If you didn't eat curry, you out of luck. Okay?
Yeah.
How is it possible that it's cheaper to set up a help desk in Mumbai than in Southeast DC? How's that even possible?
I don't know. One thing, I just want to chime in quickly. I had a very good buddy when I moved here who was from India. And, he knew nothing about computers whatsoever. He had a friend who had come over from India, and he allowed him to stay in his basement for a little bit. But long story short, what happened later, that gentleman who was staying in his basement set up a company and became, was referred to as like a headhunter. And he was, bringing other people from India, other specialists, and placing them on jobs. And look, Eric, the amount of money that this guy was making, it was just mind blowing. Let's say if the company Extentia happened to be one of the companies, if Extentia was paying like $165 an hour, that consultant, that person, the technician might have been getting like 95 to 100, which means the balance of it was left to that company. And what happened, my friend, he became aware of that, what was going on, and in no time whatsoever, he created his own company, and he was placing 20 and 30 people on with the company. He became like a primary, what they refer to as a window to Extentia, and he became a multimillionaire in a very short period of time. I just want to make that interjection since you were speaking about that. There has to be somebody who I know personally who really capitalized. But you can go ahead.
No, I think, this is reality, and these opportunities are available to us now.
It is.
Right now, this is available to, I'll say young, but even older. This is available to us now. To my way of thinking, our ancestors prayed for the day that Master would be confused and lost his mind, wandering around half drunk, which is what we see now. These people are lost.
They're definitely lost.
This is our opportunity properly, proceed.
And I can see in the diaspora where leadership black leadership is starting to transition. It's no longer, and I don't know if you're keeping up with what's going on over in West Africa and, with Niger and Burkina Faso and Mali and all the different things. But also, prior to you coming on, I played an excerpt from the president of Guyana. And, he has some requests that he was making from the British government. He happened to be on a program called Good Morning Britain. Yeah, but things are changing. I think it's an opportune time, just as you were saying, for black people to come to the table. And another question, okay? Now, I've heard, different numbers, but if we're looking back at 2022, if you're looking at an aggregate number of talking about the income of African Americans in 2022, I've heard I've heard between $1.3 trillion and $1.7 trillion. Wow, I mean, that's a lot of money. And I think it was stated that it would be number 16. It would be the 16th largest economy in the world. Do you see any way that part of that, now, again, most of the people got to live off them. They have to do things. And, I have my own ideas about how that can be done. But how can part of this be leveraged into capitalizing on some of these global opportunities that would provide so much growth for the upcoming years? Have you ever given that any thought?
Well, I mean, I hesitate to say this, but I think most of us will not survive what is coming.
Okay.
I don't think so. I'm not optimistic for because we are in danger of being physically enslaved again.